6, 7, and 8, sections 115 to 20, 115, 25, 115, 29, 115, 34, 115, 37, 115, 42, 115, 45, 115, 50, 115, 53, and 115, 58 regarding affordable priced rental units in the Sussex County Rental Unit SCRP program. And this is just to announce the receipt of additional written comments and to close the record. That's all we need this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, the Commission may remember this from the public hearing that was held on April 28th, where the Commission left the record open. Just to confirm for the record that there are 7 additional documents and responses that have been received. They have been circulated in your paperless packets, although that you may see in front of you there's some additional paper printed documents that were received after publication of the paperless packet. They provide interesting technical and numerical input. I don't propose to read all of them today. Some of them are very technical. But one document in particular is this report he received from Century Engineering. And just to provide some background to that, Mr. Chairman, there was some discussion during the public hearing previously as to how many parcels countywide could potentially, from a numerical point of view, benefit from this potential ordinance. And we asked Century Engineering to perform a county-wide analysis for us, and most of the document outlines the methodology they employed in this analysis. And staff were able to share with them our data so that they were using real-time data provided from the Planning and Zoning Department. If I just draw your attention to the very bottom of the second page, Mr. Chairman, that the total number of parcels that meet the criteria established as part of the analysis is over 2,500 parcels. It's 2,521 parcels. But if you look at those parcels that are greater than 1 acre, and the reason the 1 acre threshold was selected is that the ordinance includes a buffering requirement, so we excluded parcels of less than 1 acre. So it yielded 612 potential parcels out there county-wide that fulfill the requirements of the ordinance. And then of those 612 acres, we asked Century Engineering to give us the total acreage. And I believe this question came up during the public hearing, is what's the total area county-wide? And it's 6,291 acres within those 612 parcels. So hopefully staff were able to assist in answering that question. In addition to that, Mr. Chairman, staff were able, should the Commission's discussion touch upon this subject, we wanted to not only have the slides that we prepared and presented as part of the public hearing available, but staff also wanted to talk about other multifamily housing examples in the county. If the Commission wished staff to do so, we could just very quickly go through, and this is very similar to the presentation that staff gave Council prior to the introduction of the ordinance, but we were specifically looking at some examples of multifamily housing. Now, not all of these include affordable or moderately priced income units in the county's programme, but these are examples of one, the number of stories, the number of units, but also the amount of open space. And actually, I don't believe I'm going to be able to show the open space without exiting it because it's hidden on the screen, but I can actually, that's better. So you can see Beach Plum Dunes, for example, has a density of approximately 3.25 dwelling units to the acre, is 144 units, but staff wanted to draw attention to the open space, that this is physically capable of being achieved right now in existing projects that have been built or are being built. And the next example...
Just real quick, before you go back to that, there's a couple variables in this, so keep in mind with the proposed order, and let me back up, this wasn't anything new that staff developed. You know, you guys are somewhat seeing this for the first time. Council's been talking about this for a while, and this was information that staff had going into the council presentations. We just didn't have it up the last time around. But there's some differences. For example, this one's 42 feet tall for Beach Plum. The ordinance proposes 52 feet, so there'd be another story that would increase the ability to have more affordable units and greater density. Same thing, the threshold for open space in the ordinance is 50%. This one's actually 89%, which is a really high number. So, you know, although it shows 4 units an acre, its density on this one, there's another story, and then what would that be? I guess almost 40% of the space or the property available for additional projects. Actually, Oh, never mind, I don't want to say that, it's a different project. So, anyway, thank you, Mr.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. And we had other examples to share. Well, we don't have many of these, Mr. Chairman, but we thought Coastal Tide, which you also saw earlier on the agenda this evening, is a project with 168 units on 18.33 acres. And it was the open space we wanted to draw attention to, that this project was able to deliver over 63% open space with a density of less than 12 dwelling units to the acre, 9.17 dwelling units to the acre, approximately. And again, as Ms. Robertson pointed out, this is compliant with the 42 feet maximum building height. And it shows the variety. If you look at some of the examples, if I jump to, here's a different photo of the same project. And then jumping to the next one, Western Willows, it again is a 3-story building complying with the 42-foot maximum building height, 287 units with a density of approximately 10.65 dwelling units to the acre, achieving less open space, but 48% open space was deliverable out of this project. And then finally, I think there's just one more example. That's another photo of Western Willows, Mr. Chairman. And then the final example is Sea Glass, which was under construction at the time of this photo. It's slightly different design, a 4-story building with a flat roof design, also complies with the 42-foot building height requirement for 224 units on 18.75 acres for an approximate density of 11.94. But it goes to show that even at below 12 dwelling units to the acre, the percentages of open space that are deliverable are in the region of 50% or more. So we don't have that assist your discussion, but we wanted to have it handy in case the discussion. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So now we're open for discussion.
We are open for discussion. I would suggest to the commission that since we don't have a full commission this evening and there's no real pressure for us to vote on it tonight, we don't necessarily have to, but it's up to you.
Just wait and have discussion when.
I think it would be good if all 5 commissioners had the opportunity to vote. But if Mr. Hopkins, if you want to discuss something, you're welcome to do that.
Maybe or just ask some questions. This is like trying to take a drink from a fire hydrant. From between last week and this week, I mean, it's all good information. But it's such a big problem right now. This workforce housing. When half of our county workers, or not just workers, I think that the report showed back when the evaluation was done by LSA, the total workers in the county, I think it was 80,000. Does that sound right? About 80,000.
I don't want to say without going back and verifying it.
And about half of those folks are, the average median income at the time was about $50,000 a year per worker. So if there's 2 people living in the house, it could be maybe a little bit more than that. We're trying to find folks jobs so that they can be serving in all the different capacities that we need, hospitals and every capacity. So it's a huge problem, and it would be. I wish that some of us could have had the opportunity to have sat in on or been involved in some workshops, so that we could come up with multiple solutions. I see this as like one solution, but I just think we need to try to be unfolding 10 or 12 or 15 different solutions like this one. This one is pretty much concentrated where the highest dollar value of land is. I mean, the bulk of it is in the coastal area. So, and the evaluation talked about like 3 or 4 different analyses that they made, starting with the Route 13, the 113, and then, coming on across. And even that, it really only made sense over on the shore, in this area that you're talking about. So in order to apply this, so maybe this is okay for the coastal area, or the 3 categories that is in the ordinance. But we need some. As we move, we also need workforce housing over in the Georgetown area and beyond. And in order for those numbers to work, it goes back to, I kept driving this whole, is it 12, is it 17? I mean, it might have to be 20, but to try to figure that out on a Thursday night in just a few minutes is a lot for us to do. As I read through the ordinance amendment, because it's an amendment to an ordinance that was originally written in 08 and then amended in 16, and as we talked, during the last meeting, nobody really ever took up on it. The county, like you say, county council's been involved in this for, these last 2.5 years since the evaluation was written. But it's taken 2.5 years. I counted, and I counted the items that were deleted, or the lines, topics that were deleted and added, and there was like 20. There's like 26 different things that were deleted, and 16 that were added, and I mean, to take 2.5 years to do that, it's.
Well, I can answer that. First of all, we had COVID in those 2.5 years, so everything kind of stopped for a while. I mean, we didn't have county meetings. We couldn't meet in person to do that. What we also did was analyzed, during that 2.5 years, the Coastal Tide Project was coming online. And so there was a real-time education about the SCRP program and how it was working and how it wasn't working. So we utilized the information we learned from going through that real-time project to see what we could do to fix the Chapter 72 stuff. And then, the other thing is we looked at and spent a lot of time looking at the LSA report, and then also tried to figure out a project, as I said, well, actually once we got going again, because after the COVID shutdown, to make sure we'd come up with a product that was in fact workable, with the height, area, and bulk requirements that we were placing on it, and looking at the map. I mean, I point that out. I don't want you to think that there was a delay because there was only a few lines that were changed. This was a pretty heavy lift based on LSA's report.
Yeah, and I think it's going to work in these high dollar areas. I think developers will be motivated to go from what they can currently build, to the acre. But really, by the time you do all the bulk requirements, the average is 1.5 or 1.3. So now they're going to be able to jump up there to 12, and I'm fine with that, because at least we're going to get 30% in those areas. I'm concerned that we can have another option as well as we move further west, because the LSA evaluation, the way I read it, it's saying the further west you go, you got to have a higher density in order to make it work. So. And I just think I think we have to get our heads. I just feel like we have to take it seriously. And I mean, I think this is fine. It's taken 2.5 years, but I think it's like somebody said, putting a Band-Aid on a 6-inch wound. We just need to do more, and I think we can do better. I think that's really what it boils down to. I think we're going
to have to, and I'll just to expound a little bit on what you're saying about the difference between east and west, but I want to talk about that for a second. But I do want to say that I don't think this is intended to be the end. This is intended to be the beginning. This is the first small piece of a very big pie that we have to put together. And you're right about that. And hopefully we'll be able to move along much more expeditiously than we have. But here's the thing. Apartments, as an example, or houses for that matter, no matter what it is, it costs the same to build an apartment in Seaford as it does in Rehoboth. So if you're a developer, what's the variable cost? The variable cost is always going to be the land, okay? So the whole thing is the construction costs the same in either place. So you're right, because the land numbers are not going to come down to the point that there's going to be a big disparity because the construction cost is fixed. So in order to get more reasonable rents in areas that are less desirable, you're right, we may have to consider either additional incentive, on the west side of the county. And these are things that need to be looked at. So when we get to the point of talking about specifics, I'm still wondering about the 50-foot setback versus 100 and 50% versus 30% on open space. But I mean, I see now that 50% is achievable. I was worried about that, and I'm still a little concerned about it when it comes down to talking about it. But assuming that we defer action, that's going to give us at least a couple more weeks to digest. As you said, we've just been presented some new information. We need some time to look at that. But I'm 100% agree with you that we need to advance this whole issue as quickly as we can.
Right, and people don't just want to rent; they want to own.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. This only addresses one little piece of it. How do we deal with that?
Right,
right.
But I mean, it's been 2.5 years. LSA, half of what their evaluation was talking about was rental. The other half was home ownership.
Right.
And I think we can do better on that. I think we have to do better.
You're right.
Now,
and I
Jamie,
think there's not a thing we can do about the 2.5 years that are gone. But from this point forward,
we need a plan.
We need to be working on it.
So, Mr. Whitehouse, when you were saying earlier about the 600, if you can go over these numbers with me again. You said that they evaluated as small as 1 acre, but then the 612 parcels, was that all the way down to 1 acre, or were they larger?
So of the study, I won't go through all the methodology and how they identified it. They just took the ordinance and said what areas in the county.
But that's in the report, the methodology.
Correct. So they actually identified 2,521 parcels that are involved. There's actually a bit of math on how do you count parcels that are partially in, and we actually came up with methodology on using the centre. The centre of the parcel has to touch this boundary to be counted. But then of those 2,521 parcels, we just counted those that have an area greater than 1 acre, and that was because of the buffering requirement. So we focused on the 612 that are more than 1 acre, because if you think about that buffering requirement, you need some area to achieve that. And then of those 612, we calculated the total area as being 6,291 acres.
So the basis was just like anything larger than an acre, but can you achieve this type of housing on just something more than an acre? I thought we decided the average size was going to be like 10 acres or something like that. Is that wrong?
Correct. So we modeled on 10 acres, and the model we gave you was 30 acres as well. So we wanted to exclude anything of less than an acre because it's.
Well, why not? I'm just if the basis that we're in order to build something like this is going to take 10 or 30. How many of these 612 parcels that are larger than an acre are actually larger than 10 acres?
That would require more math and more
analysis. We have that next time when you come back?
I could absolutely get it.
There should be a distribution available. The other thing it's important to keep in mind here is a lot of times these projects are done on multiple parcels too, because I'm pretty sure they're counting individual tax parcels, right? So it would be, I would be interested to know too what the distribution is. How many are 1 to 5 acres, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, and 20 and above maybe, or something like that. Would be interesting to know just to have the information. We also need to be mindful that a lot of these projects happen because you've got a 4-acre parcel, a 6-acre parcel, and another 6-acre parcel, and you put them together and make however much that is, 16, I think. But make it, and that becomes the parcel of land that you're working with. But that's a point well taken, and that would be good information to have.
Yeah, I mean, and even try to. I mean, this is such a big thing. Maybe we need to pay somebody 8 or 16 hours just to put some groups together and say, of the what ends up being X, maybe it's 300 or 200 or whatever it is.
Well, we can group.
You can group these.
You want to see where it is? I mean, is that what you're
Well,
asking?
then,
Because
like, what is,
I bet
what
you
is
everybody in this audience would love to know if
the
parcel is going to go
yeah, the
next to
possibility,
house.
or the possibility that you could group these three parcels together and get 10 or 30 acres?
I don't know that I want to do that, because
No,
then you're
that's-
getting
that's
parcel
good.
specific, and you're almost
That's-
prejudging
yeah.
something. This
I agree.
ordinance needs to be looked at.
I agree.
And let's not
Not
let
that parcel.
Well, then
that
let's just keep, that's fine.
information,
Let's just know right out, like straight up, how many are greater than 10, or
Yeah, no,
like
that's
you
fair.
said, the way
Yeah,
you explained it.
All right.
It
I
would
just
be
wanna make
interesting
sure
to have that distribution.
what you were trying to figure out here.
I don't want, I would really, would prefer to not see this held up too much longer. I don't see any problem moving ahead with this, but again, what often happens, and I think this is what is concerning Mr. Hopkins and me, is that we do something like this, we congratulate ourselves, and then everybody, for doing something for affordable housing, then everybody goes back to sleep. That's not what we want to do. We want this to be the first step, and then get on to the next step right now.
So the way that Mr. Wheatley explained, does that work for you?
Sure. I can
5 to
certainly get
10,
that.
10 to 20,
I can get that for the next meeting. That shouldn't take too long.
or 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 and over. Yeah. How about that?
And if the commission could leave the record open for staff to supply that.
Yeah, why don't we just defer action, leaving the record open? That'd be the thing to do?
I think so, yes.
Okay, Mr. Hopkins, you
The only
want to?
change I make is if you do 20, instead of 20 and up, do 20 to 30 and 30 and up.
All right, that's fine.
That's all. You probably already have that on, you just matter of you sort in your spreadsheet.
Maybe.
Is it? I don't want you taking all week doing this.
It's getting farmed out to their consulting engineer.
Remember when Mr. Hopkins said, let's just have somebody spend 10
Yeah.
or 10 or
Whatever
They-
it
they
takes.
got somebody to do
Whatever
that,
it
right?
takes.
Trust me, they've got that person all lined up, and they'd be tickled to death to spend 10 or 20 hours
Yep.
at $180 an hour, so, yeah. Okay. Mr. Hopkins, do you want to
good,
make that
thank you.
motion? You want to make that motion?
To hold the record open.
For action, holding the record open to receive additional information requested from the staff.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to defer action on the ordinance to amend the code of Sussex County, Chapter 72, et cetera, and holding the record open to receive the additional information that was requested by the commission. Ms. Hoey Stevenson, how do you vote?
I vote yes, because it sounds like reasonable information to get.
Mr. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Mears?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Motion carries